Greetings, YouTube, and welcome to the celebration. It's a celebration. uh, I'm celebrating with ew, did this not start yet already? Okay. All right. Greetings, YouTube. This is the Garage Autonomist. I'm celebrating my over 100 subscribers by doing a 21 questions or less to me, Garage Autonomist. And wow, I have my first question for the night. I'm looking in the chat room. I'm pretty sure Jenny just wanted to drop this in. Funny that Jenny that it was Jenny that gave me my first question. I'll get to that in just a second because I was just about to share with everybody two, there are two really good videos, two best videos of this week for me was uh, was New Possibilities last video about the Orlando shootings and Oppression Olympics. I really suggest people listen to it. The brother just laid it down perfectly about some of the things that are separating us, or at least the way I see it, separating us as people who really should be united in situations like this. We just really got to get out of that level of discussion. And Jenny McDermott's latest video about Armored Skeptic, or I should really say it's about Armored Skeptic. It definitely is Armored Skeptic's words, but it's Jenny McDermott basically breaking him down, or rather deconstructing the whole idea about chivalry and masculinity. I thought she did an excellent fucking job with that by using the words of a man who's obviously believes in quote unquote traditional patriarchy. I'm pretty sure he's going to try to backtrack later on, uh, say, oh, it was just a parody or whatever, because he's that type of dude. He strikes me as that type. Okay, so my first question, and I'm just going to get into this now. If I don't get a lot of questions tonight, what I'm going to do is I think I may want to talk a little bit about what's happening in France, and but I feel like that really requires a scripted episode, because scripted video, because where I can put in some facts and a little bit more meat in terms of timelines and why France is in revolt right now. Revolt that has actually spread to over 5 of their major cities, and really they're occupying in a way that just did not happen here during the quote unquote American fall, during the Occupy movement. But it should have been, in terms of vision, it should have gone to that level. A lot of us actually had that vision, but and there's definitely a lot of really good discussion happening amongst radicals right now. Is being an unfair comparison what's happening right now in France. But anyway, I'll get into that later. But all right. So far I only have one question, but it's going to be but it might even actually be a long answer because this is a hard one. Jenny McDermott asked, "What is your favorite book?" Man, I can't even begin to answer that one just by narrowing it down to a book, to one book. So I wanted to do actually a video a while back called the Garage Autonomous Bibles, but the reason why I never went beyond that with that video, I think, is because as I was sitting there thinking about and compiling the list, it broke into fiction and then it broke into nonfiction. So then I was like, oh man, because a lot of the nonfiction, a lot of my fiction books that I like are books that had a lot to do with my own personal growth. And so, and obviously that's what I think when people say they had a favorite book, has a lot to do with it having to do with their personal growth or even their political growth. All right, so that was a long-winded, lot of bloviation there. So let me just get down to the answer. Because I'm rereading it for my Who Are the Pro Blacks uh, video, upcoming video or series, it might be. I would have to say Crisis of the Negro Intellectual. All right. Um, Again, I have a lot of favorites, but this one I think, as I was rereading it, had a huge impact on me, a lot more than I thought it did. Now, just to give you the name of the author, his name is Harold Cruz, and Harold Cruz wrote what I believe to be the most comprehensive historic, like a history book in terms of Black liberation struggle. So this is not a Black history book per se, like who was the first one to make the hot comb, or who was the first to make battery acid out of a sweet potato. This is not that kind of book. This is basically about the history of liberation struggles, but most importantly, he goes into an analysis of what happened in terms of the intellectual, or sort of the intellectual scene of the Black community, and he kind of follows the different trends that happened mainly during the Harlem Renaissance. But he then touches, of course, on Black history, liberation, on Black liberation movements before the Harlem Renaissance. So really, we're going back. He goes all the way back to during the slave abolitionist movement. He starts with Frederick Douglass and Samuel L. Delaney, as I do in the later part of my upcoming video series, which is going to be called Who Are the Pro Blacks. I wanted to do where I talk about the direction, and he talks about the direction of the Black liberation movement and what it really means, and all of that. And so he talks about how it really comes down to, for Black people, the struggle between integration and self-determinationism, i.e. Black nationalism. Samuel L. Delaney, of course, I'm sorry, R. Delaney, sorry, uh, wanted to head up a Black nationalism, was the first Black nationalist, really. He's the father of Black nationalism. And Frederick Douglass, who was definitely a very militant anti-slavery advocate, and activist and organizer. He definitely still believed in integrating with, uh, for the freed slaves as he envisioned them to integrate into America, and whatever they needed to do to make things better for themselves, that's what they needed to do when the time would come, that kind of thing. So they had those differences, and Harold Cruz breaks it down, generation between the generations, and between the waves of whatever was moving the Black community in America, in terms of where they were, in terms of directions they wanted to go. So, he gave us Samuel L. Delaney and Frederick Douglass, and their differences on which direction Black people should go after slavery. And then he moves on to Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois. I mean, it was like, again, it's a incredible book. So I actually put that as number one, Bible number one for me. He goes all the way up until the Malcolm X era, but of course, more like the X was in the Nation of Islam. So he ends it there. And and the thing about Harold Cruz is that he was actually a Black conservative. So he was not a leftist by any means, and he certainly did not spare his opinions about really the first wave of the Black radical tradition, which was born during the Harlem Renaissance. So therefore, Richard Wright, Claude McKay, these were real Black Marxists and leftists who began really the Black radical tradition, and or the first wave of it, right? But but Harold Cruz at the same time does not, like, he doesn't attack them. It's not like reading Rush Limbaugh talks about Karl Marx, nothing like that. It's basically, he just felt that whatever it was that they believed in, they were not effective enough because they were sort of hampered, I guess, by their white compatriots. And he felt the same way about the black conservatives as well. He just felt that basically there was the brain drain, if you will, happening due to so-called allies who happen to be white people. So he just felt that they where they should have really been dealing with the black community, they really weren't, and they were putting too much of their energy into petty squabbling and just so on and so forth. It was a great book. So I would say if you have a chance, please go out and find it. It's still being printed. Crisis of the Black Intellectual. It's a great book. For your first question, what is my favorite book? Because that would have to be my favorite. Now I can go on to second favorite and all of that. Second favorite would have to be Ishmael Reed's Terrible Threes. Ishmael Reed is, first of all, one of my favorite fiction writers, next to Stephen King. But yeah, I would have to give Terrible Threes. It was part of a small series of his. There was Terrible Twos and Terrible Threes. But I would have to say Terrible Threes was my favorite. I'm not going to really get into it that much. I'm just going to actually put a link in the low bar after this show and let you all know, because it's been a while since I've even read it. So I would just be wasting everyone's time here, rambling on about a book that I can barely remember. I think Stephen King's Dead Zone was one of my favorite fictions, fictional works of fiction. I have to say that I could read that. That's one of the books that I can read over and over again. And Stephen King's not The Shining, The Stand. Okay, that's enough for the fiction. Now I'd say the autobiography of Assata Shakur would be my second favorite nonfiction work. Yeah, I know it's not Malcolm X's. It's a good book, don't get me wrong, but I didn't find it as transformative. I'm gonna have to stop there because now I'm just wandering about. Someone I just watched the movie Cell by King and it was terrible. Yeah, I don't know that one. And this is Line Tech BDD 1600. I'm sorry if I'm Line Architect BDD 1600. Sorry. I don't know that one. Actually, I stopped. I got to the point where I had to stop. I was reading King when I was, in my teens, and when I think right after, I think after he came out with Dead Zone or Linear. Got it. Linear Tech. So I guess it would be Linear Tech BDD BD 1600. Got you. I would have to say though that I stopped reading King. I'd say by 1985, I was kind of done. It was just too much. He was just like putting out a book every day. I mean, I don't know if he was just doing coke or if he was just bored or what. Actually, I guess as someone who aspired to being a writer when I was a teenager at the time, I was probably just a little jealous because while I couldn't put two sentences together, it amazed me how much that man was able to write. Saw you in Jamila's show today. This is Yolanda. She wouldn't listen to write for nothing. She wouldn't listen to me, is I think this is what you're trying to say. Yeah, let's talk about that. First of all, I had an interesting week. I was called an asshole by a lot of people. Now, it's not surprising to me. I get called an asshole at least once a week by either my wife or my oldest daughter. I definitely got called an asshole today by not today by Jamila. And if no one knows who Jamila is, Jamila Briscoe is the woman whose voice I featured in a video that I made on Saturday for for the for my diaspora dystopia video. Now, I'm not friends with Jamila. I'm not enemies with her either. I do know who she is, and I'm not going to go into explaining why I did the video all over again. You can find that in my follow-up video. But I I just happened to jump into her chat. She did a live show earlier today right when I got home from work, and all I wanted to do was just say what's up because she had mentioned Kansas City, Missouri, and I just immediately got called an asshole. But then when I asked, well, why am I an asshole? And I was bemused by it. Believe me, I wasn't hurt or anything like that. I thought it was kind of weird, but she just said, because you just say she didn't say what it was that I said. She just, I don't know what it was. I mean, quite frankly, I just think she just didn't like. A lot of people get weird when they suddenly hear their voice in some random dude, me, in some random dude's video. And I get pretty, and especially since I didn't really contact them beforehand and say, hey, I'd like to use your voice in this. And it's true, I didn't ask her. I guess I took the advantage of the fair use rule a little too much there. And quite frankly, I mean, look, dude, Jamila's not a feminist. Everybody knows she's not. But again, her words were really raw, and I thought that they were for real. So that's why I posted it. And I will always give her credit for that. I always gave her credit for that. And I think that everything that she said in that video, Hunger Strike, was true. Now, yeah, there's a lot of things I didn't put in the video because, I mean, there's a lot of things in there that I didn't agree with, but that doesn't matter. It was definitely a good breakdown, I think, of patriarchy, especially right now happening within the Black community. When I think of misogyny in the Black community, when I think of patriarchy in the Black community, I think of neocolonialism and internalized racism. I lump it all in under either of those two terms. Now, Linear Tech says Jamila changes her channel's name so much I don't even know where to find it anymore. It's called Bosque Chanel. That's the name of her channel. I'm just going to write that in there for you so you'll be able to copy and paste. That's her new channel. Now, Yolanda says she has voices in her head and that she needs help. Well, again, you know what? When it comes to real personal stuff like that, I don't have an opinion. Well, I'll be a liar and say if I didn't have an opinion about her, but I'm not going to go public about it. Of course, you can always ask me why I choose not to. I have no problem answering that. It's just that I choose not to publicly say what I really think about her because I think it gets in the way of some of the things that she had to say in that video. In general, all that other stuff not really important to me. But Yolanda says she is in a delusional relationship with a man who doesn't want her. Yes, it's very well known. We all know the history. She moved to Atlanta because of some feelings that she had for somebody. Whatever. Again, I don't have anything to say about that. But I mean, of course, you're free to talk about that in the chat room, Yolanda. And again, I want to thank Yolanda and I want to thank Linear Tech because they're definitely one of the latest people who have subscribed to this channel. Believe me, I look at everyone who has subscribed to me. And the one thing that I did, I broke one of my biggest rules in the last 2 weeks, which was every time I get new people to subscribe, I send them like a quick direct message thanking them that they've subscribed to me. And literally, I've got about 30 people I need to thank in the last month. I have no idea why there's a sudden interest in me, But believe me when I tell you, I truly appreciate it, and I'm very, 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 very happy that you all are joining me here at this channel on this channel. So let me see here. I'm just gonna do that little adjustment. All right. So, right. Okay. Yeah. Curious told me that there was a friend who was going to come here, and I'm glad you're here. So, welcome, Linear Tech, which is an interesting name, by the way. Are you in IT? Because I'm in the IT field. Well, just let me know. So, if anybody, again, if anyone has any questions for me, you can ask me anything. The only thing I'm not going to be answering is where do I live and what my real name is. Not going to happen. I want to say I subscribed to you when I listened to a video you did about Mad Head Doctor. I have fun with Mad Head. I'm not even gonna lie, man. I love making Mad Head videos. I know it might alienate some of the people who come by and visit me. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you. And I love your channel too. It's fucking awesome. And that Armored Skeptic video was fucking great. Seriously. Um Linear Tech BD 1600 is the model of my first turntable. I'm not in IT. I should have known that, but maybe I shouldn't have. I'm not a DJ, so I don't know why. But it's funny how Yolanda is not a fan of Curious. Okay, so Jenny says I can't watch with sound. I can't watch with sound because with parents watching Fast and Furious with the dead guy. That's the guy. Oh, right. That's the one who died. I think he died in a car with his. No, his son got out of the car. That was sad. Yeah. I didn't watch any of them movies. I couldn't watch that. Force 100 will thank you. Welcome. Force 100 will says, "Hey, what's going on, Garage? Make another Madhead video." Um, I was this close. I was actually, yeah, Madhead Doctor. That's the Madhead we're talking about. Okay, well, let me just back up this really quickly. So once again, thank you, Jenny. Again, I love that video of Armored Skeptic. I know you're not able to hear me right now, but again, thank you. So if you're able to listen to this video later on tonight or tomorrow, whatever, you'll know how much that I mentioned that your video was one of the two best videos that I've seen this week. Okay, so going forward, yes, Linear Tech. Um, I have some older videos about Madhead. Most of them are just me just poking fun at him. But Madhead, if that's a question, if you want it to be a question where you want to know what it is that I think about Madhead and what my problem is with them, I will get to that. But I want to now answer Force 100 real quick. Madhead, his he made a video this week. I was going to make a response video. He made a video this week where he talks about that he was going on about how the real problem is not white supremacy. It's the real issue that we are all facing is imperialism. Now, what he really wants to say is the real issue is capitalism. But he, because of his ego and really his ignorance and his arrogance of being ignorant, he didn't want to let go on using the term imperialism when New Possibilities was actually in the chat room, being one of the only friggin' commentators that Madhead had who knew better, was trying to correct Madhead, and Madhead didn't want to hear it. Now, yeah, he doesn't know much about politics, Force 100, but you are 100% correct about that. I went ahead and responded with a semi-smart ass answer. I knew he was going to delete it. He deletes all my comments. But the problem here is that I wanted to correct him. On his channel, which is Madhead 1971, that's his supposed political, and I'm using this in quotes, political channel. He has been making this mistake with videos that are even older, that are way older um, than than my channel. Obviously, he's been around for a while. Madhead, and that channel 1971, Madhead 1971, is one of his oldest channels. But he's been making that same consistent mistake throughout all of his older videos, where he points out that the system we're living in under is imperialism. No, if we were a foreign people but under American interest control, then we would be living under imperialism. No, we live in the belly of the beast, which is something that a very popular term by black leftists during the second wave, actually, of the black radical left or black radical tradition, i.e., post Malcolm, Black Panther period era. Um, we live in the belly of the beast. We live in the very source of where the imperialist extension of capitalism, that's where we live. So we don't live under imperialism. Our country actually protracts capitalism. Therefore, our country puts imperialism out there. That's their product, or that's their system, i.e., of being able to help bolster the ruling class here in terms of their riches and resources. That's what imperialism is. It does not, it affects the foreign countries of a power, of a capitalist power, who's trying to protract and protect their interests in these countries when those interests, in fact, own the resources of that foreign country. That's what imperialism is. This dude says we live under that. No, we do not. We live under capitalism. If you're talking about us as U.S. citizens. Now, he may have been thinking in terms of a broader sense, on a global sense, then yeah, you could say that everyone in some ways lives under imperialism. Actually, no, I'm not even going to go there. No, we don't live under imperialism. Not unless you live in the global south, not unless you live in or use the old term, third world country. Sorry, Madhead. You don't get a C. You don't even get a D marking. You get a big fat F. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an F minus because you're an asshole. And don't get me wrong, I like assholes. I am an asshole, but I like interesting assholes. And Madhead, you are not an interesting asshole. You're just a sad, pathetic, lonely, untalented asshole. That's what you are. First 100 says capitalism is what the issue is, not what he's talking about. He didn't mention fascism either, so he is off. Linear Tech says assholes unite. Okay, so now Linear Tech. Oh no, that wasn't Linear Tech, it was Yolanda. Yolanda says she's not a fan of Curious. I'm curious, Yolanda. Why are you not a fan of Curious? Because because of this time of the year, I deal with a lot of contracts and I deal with a lot of budgeting stuff at my job, so I can move on with my life and deal with the stuff that I like to do at my job, which is more of the tech stuff. So, and that's another bloviation on my part. Sorry. I have plenty of time to watch videos. The reason why I was able to catch up on Jenny stuff, New Possibilities videos. I still got a shitload of videos from a whole bunch of other people that I subscribe to watch. So I'm using this opportunity to be able to where I'm sitting at my desk. And so today I was listening to a hangout. I think it was called The Bus Stop. I don't watch them. I don't normally watch them, but I certainly watched this time around only because somebody had mentioned that Big J brought up another one of my little nemesis people that I like to pick on, Jet Setter. And I came up during this hangout. So while I was watching it, it was actually one of my earlier subscribers. So she's like really friendly with these dudes, and she goes there and hang out a lot for reasons I don't understand. But she's there. She likes being there. Hey, I respect that. That's her thing. That's her prerogative. But she basically just kept blocking Curious out. And it's funny to me, but I'm noticing that there's a lot of thank you, Force 100. Well, I like Curious too. But there's a lot of people who just don't like Curious and they just really don't like her. Now, here's the thing, it's not a mystery. It's kind of a mystery to me when it comes to the phenomena of other women not liking Curious. That's the thing that interests me. That's the thing that actually confuses me a little bit and throws me off a little bit. But I already know 100% why the other people out there don't like Curious. I think there's only one category of people who don't like Curious, but that's a umbrella category, and that is rape apologists, pedophiles, hebephiles, misogynists, and lowlifes. I think those are the only people in the world who I think don't who don't like Curious. But I don't put the women in that same category because I'm interested in why they seem to have such an issue with Curious. I already know what Curious is most likely going to say, but I would love to know why these particular women don't like her. And it's funny because this is ironic because this is where you guys should be asking me questions. I'm asking everybody else questions. Force 100 says they don't like her because she sticks up for Divine Mother. Who's Divine Mother? Divine Mommy? You mean Jamila? That's interesting. That's interesting. So that's why. So if you're talking about Jamila Force 100, that means that exactly okay. So if you're talking about Jamila, then that might make sense. A lot of people have this these people are so fucking basic in their thinking sometimes. It's like everything with them is either or, off and on, dark and light, 0 and 1. It's just retarded. They just need to get over themselves. Just because you might not criticize somebody where everybody else wants to burn the witch, so to speak, right? But you might side up with some things that they say, or you agree with some things that they say, then that doesn't mean you're necessarily caping for her. Now, Force 100 says that's part of why they don't like her. All those people who attack Jamila pretend they care about her kids, which they don't. Yes, Linear Tech, you are 100% correct. Mike Mills was dogging Jamila in front of her child in his chat room. Wow. Well, I mean, yeah, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to say, well, why? And I'm pretty sure the first question that's going to come to people's minds, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, I don't think that way sometimes, or the thought hasn't crossed my mind. But yeah, I mean, why is Jamila's kid in the chat room? Like, but again, it's like, so what? Like, you know what? That's what she does. Again, I think that if only thing I have to say is in terms of everyone coming at Jamila the way they do, is that they're wrong for doing it, because I believe that everyone is probably at least a single degree not that far from Jamila themselves. And if it's not them that's not that far from Jamila in terms of their own dysfunction, then I'm pretty sure their mothers were probably like that. I think that's the real reason why. And this other thing is like one thing that all the women get across the board, no matter who they are, in the sector, i.e., the so-called black sector of YouTube, is these women just won't go away. They won't disappear. They won't shut up. They won't stop making videos. And people want to punish them for that. I think people really they punish Jamila for that. All right. So I'm still looking for questions. But yeah, this is a good discussion still, because it does go into the whole, witch burning mindset and mentality. It's really, it's just really sick and it's really wrong. Yeah, I'm starting to think now that I do want to do the France episode. I think I'm going to try to challenge myself and do it tomorrow, at least the production part, and hopefully be able to upload it Saturday night. Uh, Linear Text says, victim owned buys and smokes weed and curses in front of his kids. Yeah, I know who he is. Back when, I say going back to December, January area, when I was like sort of fascinated with the sector, if you will, or just trying to understand it. And yeah, I know who all the major players are, definitely. And yeah, I know about that about him too. I mean, it's funny on camera. Yep, on camera. I'm pretty sure it doesn't surprise me. One thing that's funny is that even the men, they're not that far, in my opinion, from Jamila either. I mean, they talk about her all the time, and it's like, well, what's so different about you, man? I mean, really, like, if I'm sitting here thinking about kids that need their father to be more of a productive person. Now, I'm not talking about Vic anymore, but if you got a father who literally is parked in front of a laptop all day long, and one of the most, do you know, and I have to say this, I see you can roast with logic. I like that. Thank you. Thank you. Let me tell you something, man. Straight up. One of the dudes who gets, I don't know if he really gets on Jamila as much. I don't know if he does. I'm not sure. There's a guy that he lives in Benton Harbor, Michigan, right? Now I'm gonna tell you something, and I'll be the first to tell anybody this about me. I have not been an activist. I haven't done real work, community wise, whatever, in almost 2 decades, right? But check this out. If I actually did wake up one day and I was living in Benton Harbor, Michigan, that would get me off my ass. I mean, OWS was not really me getting off my ass. Occupy Wall Street was like a sprint, you know? That little period was that's all it was. But me getting off my ass and going right back to the kind of work I used to do when I was a young man, it would take me living in Benton Harbor, Michigan. I mean, first of all, there's a long tradition. People don't know this of activism in Benton Harbor. Like there are actual people. There's a man, and just give me 1 second here, y'all, because I got to tell you about this guy. And I'm just now coming up with this now. Pinkney, yeah, that's him. Hold on, just for 1 second. There's a man by the name of Reverend Pinkney. Okay, now if this man was anything, the YouTuber I'm talking about was worth a damn. He could be sitting in front of his laptop telling y'all at least about this man by the name of Reverend Edward Pinkney. Now, he is a Black autonomous network community activist. Now, y'all, if you go back to my video, The Personal is Political, I touch on what Black autonomy is and what Black autonomism is. It's basically, in shorthand, uh, anarchist anarchism or Black anarchism, right? Where, in other words, you're doing community work without authoritarian means. You use you want to believe, or rather, a typical Black autonomist wants to use what's called the horizontal model of leadership and organization. So there is no hierarchy necessarily. People meet and they have general assemblies to make decisions on what to do next and to move forward with work. But anyway, Edward Pinkney was a leader of the Black Autonomy Network community organization I'm reading now, and was convicted by an all-white jury at the Berrien County Courthouse in St. Joseph, Michigan. The jury found him guilty on 5 counts of voter fraud, 4 felonies, and 1 misdemeanor, for which he could face up to 20 years in prison, which he did go to prison. Reverend Pinckney is from Benton Harbor, a town in southwest Michigan that is 94% African American, 90% poor, 70% unemployed. He and Banco first garnered national media attention in the wake of the June 2003 Benton Harbor uprising, in which the U.S. Army was called in to repress a community outraged by the killing of a young black man by the police. In the weeks following the uprising, Reverend Pinckney and Banco organized a nonviolent march of over 200 concerned citizens demanding justice for the people of Benton Harbor and an end to police brutality. Now I know I should be going further here. I'm going to put the link in the low bar so you can read all about uh, Reverend Pinckney, but actually he had a later development in his case, because I'm kind of, I know I'm going all over the place right now, because I really should be talking about, well, why, what kind of voter fraud, what was happening with that, since he was actually convicted. But we'll get to that later. But my point is that if I lived in Benton fucking Harbor, Michigan, and all that shit that went down in just, okay, a little bit over 10 years, a little bit over 10 years, the point is that I would not be just sitting in front of a fucking laptop all day long, chain smoking. Wife is working, I'm not. But I would be using my activism. I would be out there, like, or hell, man, I would make a YouTube channel. Why not? I make a YouTube channel. I get a camera. I'll hit the streets, show everybody what's happening in Benton Harbor, Michigan, as of now. Instead, this dude just gets on there and he's just fucking shucking and jiving and whatever, man. It's like whatever. But my point here is that how is he any different from Jamila? But yet these dudes are always judging Jamila. And for me to make the statement that I'm making, people look at that as, oh, you're caping for Jamila. And that's why people, I think, come down on Curious the way they do. Linear text says, Sambo Mayor, he's talking about Tommy Sotomayor, and LA got a billion kids that they don't spend any/enough time with. You can say that again. America has some form of dictatorship, don't you think? That's a good question. Yes, we do. And here's the thing. See, we don't live in a democracy. All right, we don't. Let me allow me to expand on that. Let's start with elections. Not anyone and everyone can participate in elections. Now, we only have, although we have, to run for office outside of the Democrat or the Republican Party. If you run as an independent, you need either a certain amount of money to get on a ballot, depending on what you're running for. In other words, if you're running a mayoral election, government election, for the governor, Senate, Congress, whatever, you need to have either one or two things. You need to have a certain amount of money to get on the ballot for that election if you're running outside of both of those political parties, or you have to have a certain amount of signatures on a petition. Now, the petition part, you have to, and I've mentioned this before in my voter episode. In the petition part, you got to have a live body that lives at a current address who is willing to sign that petition. And then depending on the state, like in Texas, you have to be eligible to vote. All right? And yes, Force 100, it all goes back to capitalism. Because listen to what I said. Outside of a petition, what was the other option? Money. Well, now, who are the two political parties that have the most money? $2,000 to get on a mayoral ballot? Here you go. 20,000? Here you go. 80,000 for congressional? There you go. You see what I'm saying? So it really does work that way, or you just have to have a lot of donors. And look how much money is involved for just running, just to run. So it's all about money. Now, does that sound like freedom to you? And again, and right wingers and capitalists and pro capitalist liberals and classical liberals, they all love to talk about how, well, you don't want socialism, you won't have a democracy. No, you didn't have a democracy in Stalinist states, like under Joseph Stalin, obviously, and or Mao or what have you. But you you don't necessarily get freedom under capitalism. You just get freedom to consume. And even then, once again, of course, you have to have money to consume anything. So we don't have freedom. Now, the next example that I wanted to show, just to show that we don't really live in a real democracy, is look at the fact that we put representative government, right? Where we vote for a congressperson who says, and the idea is that we're supposed to vote for somebody who, once they get into office, is supposed to represent our interests on either senatorial or congressional floors. Well, that's not what really happens, is it? You might get somebody who really is about the true fight. And if by some chance or miracle they win, they get there, they're going to have to go up against a million other people, other politicians, who are not going to pay attention to them or listen to them, as they are all voting of the lobbyists. And the lobbyists could be anything or anyone. They could represent the oil industry, the cattle industry. They could represent Israel. They could represent, like, that's basically the game that's being played right now, right? Okay, what's the other thing? Well, let's talk about the fact your vote. Well, let's talk about the very voting process to begin with. The Electoral College. Everyone complains about it. Nobody does anything about it. That fucking thing should have been signed out of function decades ago. But the idea originally was supposed to be able to balance out the fact that, like, say, if you're dealing with a state like, say, Montana or something that's supposed to have like a lower population, people, maybe it's mostly like farmers, ranchers, people like that. So their population is low, and therefore their vote might not get heard versus all the people living in Manhattan, you know. But it doesn't. Oh, hi, curious. Hey, you know what? You've had such a fucked up week. You are more than welcome to just simply join in the discussion at this point. I mean, I'm getting questions. I'm really appreciating all the questions that I'm getting from everyone, but you know, and if anyone else wants to join, I'm just gonna put it in the chat room. Fuck it, I don't care. And I know I'm not supposed to do that because everybody says, well, you're gonna get people just showing up, but I don't give a shit at this point. And we're almost kind of done here. But anyway, but there's so many examples of how we don't live in democracy, why we don't really live in a democracy, and that's pretty much it. So we really don't. So yes, to answer Force 100 Bull's question, do I think we live in a dictatorship? Now, a dictatorship, usually, if you want to get technical, you really have to say that it really comes down to a single ruler, i.e., one ruler shall rule them all. So we don't really have that. But we definitely have what is called the delusion of democracy. And really, there is no one single ruler, but there is one single class. Okay, that's the difference. Um, that's the difference, basically. So, you know, Garage was the first person ever to say my username correctly. Oh, thank you, Linear Tech. I did struggle with it, though, to be fair, but thank you. Curious. No, really, it's a free for all at this point. You don't have to add anything. You can say whatever. Um, yeah, I mean, everybody. I got some really good questions. Jenny McDermott asked me what my favorite book was. We just got Force 100 asking me uh, was asking me, did I think we lived in a democracy? I think Linear Tech asked me why I don't like Madhead. So,
You didn't have to tell me but once. He said free for all, y'all.
yeah. So if
He
you're
said
able to
bring
join
your
in.
own drink, is what he said.
So curious, I was just telling everybody, you know what, I should have, I know I saw your email, but I didn't see that you thought it was 7:30. It was actually, I mean, well, 7:30 your time. It was
Oh, you know what?
seven
Yeah,
o'clock
you're
your
too.
time.
I feel like Texas and California are close enough that you know it's never felt like a time difference for me.
Yeah. I get
So
confused with Pacific time too, because I always think Pacific time was 2 hours behind me,
mhm.
Eastern time, but actually it's 3 hours. I keep forgetting that.
Oh no, yeah. Well, the only whatever. Okay, if you just say it's whatever standard time you guys use, I always look it up anyhow. So because I was telling am I saying it right now? Linear? Is that how we're supposed to be saying it?
Linear tech.
Oh, linear. I never put those two together. I don't know why I never read it. I read it word by word instead of realizing that it's one. Okay, I see. I
So
guess I
linear
was
tech,
making the
you
T
say
into a
that
R is what I was doing.
right,
Hmm.
right. So linear tech, you say that no one could pronounce your real name. I'm not gonna ask you your real name, but where are you from? Because obviously, if no one can pronounce your real name, that means that you most likely are from somewhere else. So, just out of interest, I'd like to know. But yes, curious. I was telling everyone just to backtrack. I already went over like I've basically technically I've gotten about 3 questions and I've answered them. And it was basically Jenny McDermott asked me what my favorite book was. Uh,
Ooh,
Yolanda asked me why I didn't like Madhead. I think Joyzy.
sweet.
Joyzy's your real name? Okay. Is that how you're spelling it in order to pronounce it? Or is that actually your real name? Joyzy. Okay. Well, we'll find out in a second. Um, uh, it was Force 100 asked me, uh, did I think did I think that we lived in a dictatorship, which I went over about the way elections are run, how how our government is run. In other words, the short answer was no. I mean, yes, but at the same time, that not exactly a dictatorship, and
Well,
that a
yeah,
dictatorship is a one single person.
there's a lot that goes on when it comes to um, controlling what people have access to learning or knowing, and making sure that we all have one school of thought or another, Democrat or Republican, on those scales. Um, it's not like, I mean, I think we can get wrapped up in that instead of seeing bigger issues
Yeah, yeah.
for real. I mean, I did join a group at some point, anarchist feminists, and I know that people think anarchy
Oh,
is free for all, but anymore, it was on Facebook. But it's because I deleted that Facebook account. But yeah, it was really interesting.
so it's interesting because I know a few people in my life who are anarcho feminists, and as you know, as I mentioned earlier, maybe you know, maybe you don't know. In my
Mhm.
earlier videos, I've mentioned that I'm a libertarian socialist, which is basically under the umbrella of actually more of the umbrella under anarchism. But
Mhm.
so yeah, it's interesting that you brought that up. And now we know that joined in with us Thursday before last. He
Mm-hmm.
is somewhat a actually I think he came more from an anarchist background into a regular traditional left background. I can't really remember. First 100 will say
I'm right. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't. I
what?
get them confused.
You get what confused?
I get left and right confused. I still do. I just shake my head
Funny.
yes. I
Force
do.
100 says, weak man whine about feminism. You can say that again. Oh, okay, linear text says, my father was from the Caribbean and gave me an African name. All right. And he says, I mean Jersey, New Jersey, New Jersey. Are you saying you're from New Jersey? Are you saying you're from New Jersey, but you're saying your name is actually an African name? Okay. All right. Cool.
What?
Yes, Force 100 Bull, you are right. Weak men do whine about feminism. And what's really funny to me is a bunch of dudes whine about something that they don't even know the first thing about. If you the next I want to throw out a challenge to everyone. Next time you see anyone, and I mean anyone on YouTube, make a video about feminism. And it doesn't matter if they answer you or not. Just go in the comment section of that video and ask, name one feminist book you've ever read. Name one. And I'll buy into what you're trying to say. Because their criticisms are not based on on actually knowing what feminism is. If you really look at it, their analysis is lacking of any real critical thinking when it comes to feminism. And I'm saying this because you can't really be, and that's the thing. A lot of people who say they're socialists or they're Marxists or anarchists or anything like that, the ones who say that, some of them, if you're kind of going like, well, you're saying you're this, but you sound kind of stupid. There's a reason why, because some people don't really sit down and actually learn or study capitalism. And I do believe you do need to understand capitalism if you're going to be a
Well,
Marxist.
yeah, but I've been looking into it lately as well. I mean, I see it brought up in a lot of our feminist discussions in the when it comes to um, intersectionality and basically how white capitalism affects Black people more so. But I want to learn more about it. My closest thing to learning about um, even economics and whatnot was my senior year paper that I did on consumerism.
Right.
It's like, well, this is just crazy,
Yeah.
and this is you're set up in a way where people are literally feeling forced to buy, and they're on this treadmill that they may never get off of.
Yeah, that's wow, that's an excellent point. When people talk about the rat race, it seems like such a harmless metaphor that
Mm-hmm.
people use. But little do they understand that the rat race really is a, a grander design, if you will. It's really meant to keep us to be focused on buying, buying, trying to fit in, trying to be in with the Joneses. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Oh, let me not go there, but I need to go into something after I say this. But trying to fit in with the Joneses and not pay attention to, and it's designed this way, I believe, not pay attention to what's really happening. Why is your paycheck shorter? Why is it harder for you to put your kids through school, which is now this huge fear that's hanging over the heads of my wife and I, of course.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard to do so much and you make a certain amount of money and you're supposed to be middle class and all this crap?
The
And
working middle class. Well, the
Right.
working poor too. And I feel
Yes.
like people don't
Yeah.
even take that into account. Like, especially in our community, not our community, in this little sector, nobody's really talking about the working class at all.
And
When,
meanwhile, the majority of them are the working class. That's what's so ironic and sick about it.
like it's the poor slamming the working poor is what I
Yeah.
mean. The people
Yeah.
that work, and then you work so hard just so you can go to school so you can work some more. And I get what LA says. I can understand some of what he's saying.
Listen, he says some things, and I know enough about him and have seen enough about him. He says some things, and you're like, okay, on one end, you can understand why he has an audience. So you're right. And that's the thing. Like he like one there is a basic criticism that he throws out to everyone else who keeps telling him, get a job, get a job, get a job. And he says, well, is that all there is that makes supposed to make people better or supposed to make people great? And why is it that y'all looking down on me because I don't have one? Like
Yeah,
that is a legitimate. He's coming from a legitimate place, and
but
even
I
Jamoa has gone
because
there too.
he had a stroke, so I feel like it's albinism. If I'm even saying it right, but yeah, I feel
Ableism.
yeah, you're right. I was saying it that way yesterday.
I didn't know he had a stroke. He had a stroke,
From what I understand, he had a stroke. So when I
and so
hear people
he's
calling him a
disabled.
bum, he's okay. I don't know. I mean, I can't really judge people by what they look like because nobody I've known to have a stroke who can't work looks like this. But then again, I've known people who have strokes who work right after, within the next month. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it
can,
depends on the stroke. Yeah, you're right. It depends on the stroke, and it depends on how it left the. It depends on how the stroke left the body. If the body, I mean, some people are never going to be functional again, and some people can but can't, and some people are just, yeah, I know what you're saying.
yeah. Well, so I don't know what's going on. He speaks fine and everything, but who knows what else is going on. So I'm just not interested in slamming the guy at this point. But at the same time, I do see that he has the mentality of a pimp, and I don't think that's cute at all.
No, no, it's
The
not. And
mentality of somebody who wants to get over on the person that they're seeing. He thought he was going to basically have me call him daddy. I could tell he was leading up to that.
well,
And
he
I
can
was
go fuck
like,
himself on that one.
no,
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. But
yeah.
basically, he wanted to donate $100 to documentary in order to, well, because he was angry with me about something. I was like, no, you shouldn't even be angry at me.
Oh my god.
So, he's like, there's sexual beef. I'm like, you can't just put women in this box of their sexual use or monetary use or not. I think that's just sickening.
All right, I
And I
just want
don't
to.
like
Oh, go
the
ahead.
quality of him. It makes it hard. It makes it difficult for me to take him seriously when he is talking about, having a job and whatnot. I'm like, I don't know what to believe
Yeah, yeah,
anymore with that guy. It's like, wow, is this just the LA that is taking $40 from somebody online, a female online? Or is it, there's nothing wrong with the donation, but he uses game to get it?
yeah.
Or is this the genuine LA?
A linear text says he is a former pimp who lived off of women his whole life, and he doesn't want to stop living off of women. You could say that. I could co-sign on that one. Force 100 says LA does make good points sometimes. I can also co-sign on that. Of course, I cannot co-sign on maybe the Earth is flat. I've heard through rumor that he actually tried to propose that, but I can't really put that on 100% on LA. There really are people out there who believe, who they're called flat earthers, is what they're called.
Yeah,
And
I don't think there's anything wrong with us getting into scientific talks here. I think that it would have been nice if, you know,
Well, okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. Force 100 says also feminism is not real. I'm going backwards. Feminism is not real. Is not the real issue. It's racism, capitalism, etc. Yes, definitely 100% Force 100.
I'm confused.
Feminism is not the issue. If anything, I would have to say feminism is or rather intersectional feminism is at least attempting to deal with all of those issues that Force 100 will just mention. And then Linear Tech again says they just dumped they just dump every negative characteristic and perception they have for women into a bucket and then they label it feminist. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and then they tell me things like you make a bad name for feminists. Well, how about this? How about you don't make me your model for anything? Don't make me your model for Black woman. How about you just see me as an individual? And I think that's part of the issue
Right.
when it comes to people of color, especially. You know, you say this or that person is the reason the Black community is in shambles. And I'm like, for all we've been through in terms of assimilating into, uh, I hate to keep saying white capitalism, but, you know, I mean, I'm really surprised that we've been able to get this far with all of the struggles. And I guess to some extent, it's what we're allowed to do. You
Yeah.
know, it's not
Yeah.
like we've been, it's not like a lot of the things that the successes that we've had would have occurred had a white person not said, hey, you can do this. I'll let you do this in my system.
Right. Yeah.
So,
No. Yeah. I agree, and that's a great point. Listen, the thing is that I wanted to touch on again, going back to the trying to live up to the Joneses. If anyone gets a chance, it's a movie called Keeping Up with the Joneses. It stars David Duchovny. Ah, damn it! Oh, Demi Moore, and David Duchovny.
ooh, I think I saw a lot of that movie, the one where he was selling his wife, basically.
No, no. I know. No, that's some other. I didn't.
But it
That's
had
a.
Demi Moore within it, and the option was that they get like $1 million if he can sleep with the guy's wife, and they have to make a decision.
Oh, okay. I know the movie you're talking about. That came out in like the 90s or something. No, this movie that I'm talking about came out about 4 years ago, right? Is and get this. I'm not gonna give the whole movie away, but the premise of the film is you got this perfect family, right? They all look good, they're all charismatic. They move to one of these suburbs, like like in New Jersey, New Jersey, linear, right? They move to some suburb in New Jersey, and everyone, of course, is drawn to them because this is America. We like good-looking people, right? And the families in this neighborhood that are drawn to this family notice that they've got all the coolest shit in there. Like the wife is wearing like some shirt that all the ladies in the neighborhood are saying, "Ooh, what's that shirt? What's that? What brand is that shirt?" And maybe it's a brand you've heard of, maybe it's a brand you've never heard of, right? The
Yeah.
the husband is busting out with some grill that literally probably cooks the food for you. And basically, people are saying, "Well, what is that? Well, how much did that cost? Well, I'm going to buy that." And and basically, it's the job. That's their job.
Oh gosh, it's kind of like that movie with Jim Carrey. It's kind of like the Jim Carrey movie where his life was on TV. His entire life was on a set. Do you remember that? That was
I
crazy.
remember that movie. Yeah. That was a good. That was a Truman, right? It was called
Yeah.
Truman.
Mm-hmm.
That was a damn good movie. This movie is not like about, but this movie is not like that much of like an alternate reality because this is real life. These are real people. This is what's really happening. Retail stores are getting together. They pick actors to pose as families, and they move
Wow.
because the culture, because people who live in the suburbs, you got to understand there's a subculture here that's at play. It's that we gotta live, we gotta buy this. We got to live this way. We got to have this car. We got to have that kind of house. We got to do this. We got to do that. And it's like it's not enough that any of these retail companies and car makers are just going to leave it up to chance as to who would buy the best product and therefore they'll just make money. No, they got to form and make their market, right? That is basically reality. So in this movie, this family, first of all, they're not even related.
And I feel evil because I kind of work in that field, and I
listen. I'm not. I swear to God, I was just trying to get myself out of the habit 2 years ago to stop stereotyping people and by their jobs, because I used to go on all the time talk about how fucked up lawyers were, how fucked up marketing people were, blah blah blah. I'm kind of over that.
I think the higher level one, I'm sure that, because I mean, you get to a certain level and you're like, my gosh, this is a mess. When you do an actual report on consumerism, and that report I did was years ago, when you see that people are being trampled to death at Walmart, something is wrong.
Well, listen, I know you deal with the design part of it, so you're not. I'm dealing with. I have a problem with people who sit and do metrics, and I have a problem with those who deal with what's called consumer psychology. Those are the people.
I do. Oh, you would like this very much. I do some of the look. In terms of like branding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Listen, there was a picture of a muscular black man holding his son, and he was nude, and client had taken this, and I was like, well, I don't know. I didn't put it in the selections. I said, well, I don't know your audience. I don't know if this is going to be considered safe.
Right.
Just due to what's presented of black fatherhood. So I'm the kind of person who has to make decisions like that. He said, I don't care. Put it there. And so I said, all right, well, now that I know what kind of client I have, I can do this. But, you know, I realized that based on sometimes anti-blackness, I do in my work try to include an array of different people, but it sometimes I have to. It seems like I fall within the category of people that it's hard. It's
wow, we really need to do a hangout and talk about a little bit deeper about this. I want to throw out a challenge to everyone who might be listening, if they have Netflix, because it's actually should be on Netflix, called Keeping Up with the Joneses. I don't want to get into too much. I almost feel bad because I did talk about the one. There was a tiny little thing that I said. I'm hoping everybody forgot it and didn't hear it. But I want everybody to get a chance. If you have Netflix, or if you don't have Netflix, but you got Amazon, or if you got whatever streaming, or if you rent.
Let me see if I have my Netflix, because I know that I do an after show after your show, even though I don't even do shows. But I do shows if you do a show. But let's see. I wonder if I have my Netflix account anymore open. I don't know my password.
But if anybody wants to, I say please watch this movie. And then I'd say Thursday after next, I would like for us all to get back together and talk about it, because I think that even though some of us say, hey, dude, I don't fucking live in the suburbs, I'm not even middle class, I can't identify with this movie and what it's talking about. But see, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. You could live in Section 8 housing. And I'm going to tell you right now, the forces behind what this movie is about also affects you, because think about it. Everyone says, where did the term ghetto rich even come from? It comes from the fact that people who don't have money spend it anyway, and they will find a way to spend it. I have literally, one time I went years ago, back when I was unemployed actually, but I was doing freelance tech work. I was doing anything I can at some point. And what I actually did do a job for a woman. She wanted a computer repair. She had like a little extra money or whatever to pay for it to get done because she wanted to buy a brand new computer for herself, but she figured if I repaired the machine that she did have, it could go to her daughter, her
Oh,
9-year-old, right? So and it wasn't, but I mean, I walked, she's definitely in a building. I don't want to say it was Section 8 building, but
mhm.
I'll put it this way. I don't want to say her unit or her life that she was paying Section 8 because where I live, some buildings are mixed even within the building, right?
Well, that's how it is everywhere. Because Section 8 now is if you can find someone who has a house and is willing to take it, they
Yeah.
accept it. They
Oh,
literally cut a check to the landlord. I didn't know that, but
I didn't know that
I
either.
found, well, yeah, it was explained to me by somebody on here. And I looked into it, and that's what happens. You can live anywhere and be on Section 8, really.
Okay. Well, right. And I don't know why I didn't know that because I've known a couple of people who lived in really nice neighborhoods and they were Section 8. But yeah, but going back, so when, but I was in there and I swear to God, this woman had a TV that literally took up the entire wall of her living room because her place was so small. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't even afford to have that TV. What the fuck? But
Well,
I mean,
some of us
it's
know like used things. Like I don't think that I would want to buy a TV new. Unless it came with a warranty, I just don't see the point.
yeah, yeah.
It's not like a computer. I can see if she got it off Craigslist, but it probably was new. It was probably from Rent-A-Center.
It looked new. Yeah. Well, Rena Setter loves them some poor people to buy. Yeah, I know what you're
Well, I
saying.
would really like to do a report on them because the
Yeah.
reviews for Rent-A-Center are out of control. But they do take advantage of people because people need a washing machine. They need a couch. People have to live.
Yes, Force 100 Bull, you can inbox me later. Yeah. I think he was talking to me. Um, but anyway, but the movie, I don't want to go into the end message of the movie or the main message of that movie. But if you find it, please see it. And then week after next, I want to talk about it because I want to talk about how consumerism is, how it affects their lives. I mean, people talk about it all the time, sure, but I think that we've got a special angle when we think about it, especially when we talk about people of color, when we talk about the term ghetto rich, when we talk about all this other
I think that
things.
they put that on, and I was speaking to Mike Mills about this. I don't know if you ever heard that episode weeks ago, before I was forced to completely shut down his Hangouts.
No, I didn't. I heard of it, but I did not see it.
Okay, well, no, this was an actual episode where we were talking, and I feel like there's a lot of shaming of people, particularly Black people, for buying the same things. And I get that they're saying, oh, Black people are poor and this and that and the other. But at the same time, it's like, well, look, um, you don't shame white people lined up to buy the iPhone. Why shame Black people for these Jordans? And I get that. And the other end of that is also we can't really be to blame for a lot of the economic collapse. What I was trying to tell him is we don't have access to getting mortgages at the same rates as white people.
Right.
So it's, to blame ghetto fabulous Black people, it doesn't make sense.
That's very interesting. Definitely want to talk about that. Yeah, we definitely want to get into that
Yeah.
a little bit
And
more.
well, the other thing I wanted to say is it's difficult because I myself, I like antiques and stuff. I totally do. I really, really do. I really, really do. And the other thing is, with the movie, the Truman Show, was it?
Yeah.
With that movie, I think you should watch it again because you would like it. I mean, I know you've seen it, but there are probably a few clips there that would be so useful in discussing consumerism, because you were right. There were literally families that were there doing marketing. They were there doing product slots.
You're right.
They were at the
I'm
man's
just not
wife. They were
remembering.
like, "Hey, Johnny, like my lawn?" And then the camera would zoom in. It was a mess.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna check. I think I'm gonna look that up again because it was a damn good movie. I liked it a lot,
It's
and I
something
think that I
about
want to see that again. Yeah,
what was it called?
the one that I was talking about,
Yeah.
Keeping Up with the Joneses. It
Okay, because I'm
stars.
looking for it now to see if I can show it to my audience. We watch full movies on my channel, and then I have to delete them right away. We
Yeah, if you
do.
can, if you're able to download it, or if you're able to find it on Netflix. But I
There was
saw it on Netflix,
You
definitely.
saw it on Netflix. There
Yeah,
was I like independent film.
me too. I
Um,
will talk about that this Friday out on Autonomous Lounge because I said that I was going to do that as I had talked about
mhm.
independent comic books a couple of weeks ago. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, I like independent film, and there are a few movies. I like that we can tell our own stories with these kinds of movies.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciate about them. There's one that I saw, What's Eating Tate? Trouble with Tate, something like that. It was about a black man going through depression. Oh, I do have it. Let's see if. I guess I just didn't know that I had Netflix. Oh, you guys, I have the movie. We'll watch this. Okay.
Okay.
It looks like I have it, I think.
So
I hope
what's
it's my Netflix.
so the movie was called What's Eating Tate?
I think it was What's Eating Tate or The Trouble with Tate, and I have it. I have oh, I see what's going on. I have the link to the movie and whatnot. It's one of those free YouTube movies, and I love stories like that. But people are like, "You don't want to see these homemade movies." Now, the quality may not quite be it may not be Tyler Perry, but I still enjoy them, and I think it's important that we do get to tell our own stories and not let other people the make their own narratives for us.
Did you see The Pariah? I think it's called The Pariah.
Ooh, no. What's that about?
It's about a young girl who's going through I wouldn't say she's actually trans, but she's exploring gender non-conform.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word I'm gonna look for? Gender non-conform. You would think that I
Is
would
she,
know this.
is she, okay. Well, I'm confused. Oh, you guys, I have access to the movie, and I will play it, and I'll set up the stream right now so that we can go into it after his show. That's what I'll
Oh,
do.
all right.
Um,
But it's a young. She's like in her high
yeah.
school. She's in her like senior year of high school, and
Mhm.
she even she has a girlfriend and everything. But even her girlfriend can't figure out why she has to go through through these great lengths of dealing like changing her overall gender appearance and everything else. And so even they kind of run into a big struggle with that. And I think I don't want to go into the plot, but the point here is that it was an indie film. It got a lot of awards, all black cast, great movie. It was
Oh,
called The Pariah. It came out like about maybe 3 years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And you just have to look that one up. I don't know if it was on Netflix. It was definitely on HBO on demand for about like 2 years ago or something like that.
maybe it's there. Maybe I have it. There was another one that I see what you're talking about. And we are living in interesting times. I
Yeah.
think that we're living in interesting times probably primarily because so much is really based on gender. And it's crazy when you really think about it. And it's like, okay, does this really matter that much? And you know what? I actually have something I wanted to show you. I've been meaning to show it to you forever. You know, I'm always emailing you stuff and hoping one day you'll read it. But yeah, here it is.
I do. I will read the other email. I didn't get a chance to even read the other, yeah, I didn't get a chance to. I got it and I will read it. I just didn't get it. It's been a really busy week for me, but I will.
Oh, no, I understand. Yeah, no, I just wanted you to gloss over it. You don't have to necessarily read it, but I thought, well, this is up his alley. But look at this. Let's see. It says something about a flesh prison. And I was like, man, this is so true. Okay, here it is. Here it is. I'm going to show it to you. Okay, let's see. Okay. And my desktop is not normally this cluttered. It's so weird how your gender supposedly dictates which shapes and textures of cloth you are permitted to drape over your flesh prison.
Huh.
And I thought, well, yeah, I kind of get that. I mean, is it really that weird that somebody would be wearing something that's shaped just slightly different just because they're born? Then again, I'm not really into I mean, I know that gender isn't going to completely go away, so I don't really have fear like other people do. The worst thing that could happen to me is that, and this wouldn't even happen, is that I wouldn't even be able to shop, online and whatnot, and in stores actually too, and find dresses for me. That would be the worst thing that could happen to me if people stopped making clothing separate for men and women. That would be it.
Hmm.
And I don't see that happening. But yeah, that sounds like an interesting movie. There was another black movie on Netflix, and it was made in the Deep South, and it was based on a town where, and what I liked about it is it wasn't it just wasn't a hood movie.
Right.
It wasn't a hood movie. It was in the South, but it was kind of in the suburbs, but it was a poor area, and there there were all these different factors that made it difficult for these children to grow up. Mental illness, drug abuse. But the thing is, it showed that it wasn't bad all the time. You know, sometimes things are nice. And I think people don't realize it. It's not like with Precious, where her mom was awful all the time.
Yeah, that was a hard one to watch, but I
No, hard to watch. Please don't. I couldn't. I got to the theater late, and I'm glad I did because I tried to watch it a few years later, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
if you get a
If you get a
chance
chance
to find
to
out,
find out,
hold on, did I unmute myself? Nope, I'm still muted. If you get a chance to find out what that movie is, I would love to. Maybe that's what I would love to do is to talk about that next week.
Oh,
But
that
you know,
movie.
I'm beginning to wonder if I should actually do my hangouts on a different day. I think Thursday might not be a good day for people. Or sometimes I was starting to think maybe if I started them later, but I cannot do late like that.
Don't do that. No, no. I don't think you should do them later because I think the quality of people that you're getting right now is exactly the quality of person you want. I mean,
Yeah, I have to agree.
you don't want people who are up all hours of the night like me. You want people who you want to keep us out. We're the riffraff.
No, you're perfect with stuff. No, listen, I'm gonna have to end
Oh,
this in 2 minutes, but I want to say thank you to everyone for their questions. Linear Tech, thank you so much. I want you to be able to come in, maybe if you feel the courage to jump in with us next week, because I think we're going to go ahead and talk about indie film. I think we want to talk about black people in indie film, or just indie film in general. I'd be more than happy to for us to have that discussion. First 100 again, as always, thank you so much. I want to thank Jenny McDermott for her first question. Look, again, this turned into a good conversation, and I'm just happy again to the 115 people who have subscribed to this channel. I can't thank
How
you
did you find
enough.
out you have? Okay, because I can't tell how many people I have. I had to copy and paste all of my users now that they've made it so that if they're they're private.
Really?
That is so cool.
Yeah, thank you. No, I have a couple of people who are private. Yeah, that's true. But the real number is 115. I think but sometimes I have to look at myself unsigned just to see what the number is to everyone else.
I don't
So I think
see on other.
it's somewhere like 114 people.
Yeah, well, what I wanted to tell you is I got scared because I noticed that you were mentioned. Somebody wrote your name was Garage Thomas. They were saying because that's how Big J says your name, and I thought, well, that's cute.
Listen, I do have to say, you know what? I wanted to talk a little bit about, and we ran out of time, but I noticed that I did look at that hangout today with Big J where he went to the bus stop.
I told him, no.
Yeah,
The only reason
no.
I was trying to call in was to defend myself.
I know, and it was very unfair how they dealt with you on that one. But I'll get into say this: you are always welcome to talk here, and that's why I put you on today. So anyway, I want to thank everybody, but I'm really literally falling asleep right now. So
and you guys, I'm starting the stream now.
okay, good. So please, everybody, go to Curious's stream. She's gonna go ahead and show that movie. I think called Keeping Up with the Joneses. A great film about.
I'll link it in the description box. In the comments section of this video, and maybe one of Garage's other videos. And then I'm going to link it in the chat. That way you guys get it. But should the title be The Joneses Rampant Consumerism?
Yeah, yeah. Keeping Up with the Joneses.
Okay, movie about
Rampant consumerism. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'll do. And I know I can't keep it up because I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, I know. They're gonna flag it. Believe me. I don't really understand how some people do these live streams and they be playing like copyrighted music and then the video gets flagged right after they've done all that work.
You can press the remove button when it comes to actual songs. You can just go in and remove them. But when it comes to full movies, listen, I played this awful movie that Linear Tech recommended to me about Eddie Murphy as a vampire. He looked like a cigarette. He looked like a cross between Lionel Richie and that one guy. What's Hulk Hogan? It was a mess.
Yeah.
Like a skinny version of those two. And then you watch this movie, and do you know by the end of the movie that it said blocked in all countries? And I'm like, well, it should be. It's awful.
I remember that movie. I didn't watch it, but I remember that movie.
You survived.
All right, so I want to thank everyone in the chat room, and I want to thank everyone who's listened, and I want to thank everybody who's going to listen to the uploaded version of this, and I want to thank Curious, and I want to thank all the 116 15 new subscribers, and I appreciate you all that you love this channel so much, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Peace.
Peace. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.